When I was a teenager, I have a vivid memory of a summer vacation. Our family, we lived in Iowa at the time, and we loaded into our family car and drove toward Washington, D.C. And along the way, we made several stops, and one of them happened to be on a college campus. I wasn't necessarily college-aged, but my parents loved to take us to various campuses so we could see what a college was like. And I don't even remember what city we were in, but I want you to remember that this took place in the 90s, long before GPS existed in our cars or on our cell phones, not that we had cell phones, telling us which way to go. We didn't have the voice of Siri saying, at the next stop sign, turn right. We may have, as a family, had good old-fashioned interstate maps from AAA, remember those? But we didn't have individual city maps for our stops along the way. Our mapping was based on the best guess from our driver, my dad. And at one point, as we were driving around this college campus, my dad took a turn where we ended up driving on a sidewalk. Yes, this is a memory that has lived on in my family for ages. Now that I have a son who's learning to drive, we recently told him, just be careful so that you don't drive down any sidewalks like Grandpa did. And sometimes, even now, with our fancy technology, I argue that our maps take us down unexpected roads or sidewalks. Today, I want to talk specifically about the idea of a road map when it comes to our faith. We've wondered previously about the idea that spirituality is messy. Just like life itself is messy, our faith lives, they can be messy too. We are all a work in progress. The construction dust is everywhere. So if we agree that our spiritual lives weren't meant to be perfect, and yet we are hoping for spiritual connections and spiritual understanding, where do we start? Is there such a thing as a roadmap for faith, for spirituality? Now, I'll go ahead and state what you might be thinking. Sometimes we hear church leaders, myself included, saying that the Bible serves as our roadmap. And yes, of course, that's where we try and look as we want to understand how God is working in the world today. But it doesn't take long reading the Bible, picking up and turning to any chapter where we realize we need some help in interpreting it. There's some confusing stuff in there. In the New Testament, Jesus himself even alludes to this. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, we hear the story of Jesus sending out his disciples. You might expect him, on the one hand, to pull out a map and say, at the next intersection, after 3 stop signs, you'll see a house on the left. Talk to those people about me and move on to the next town. But it doesn't happen like this. We hear these things. I am sending you out like sheep among wolves. Therefore, be as shrewd as snakes and innocent as doves. Be on your guard. You will be handed over to the local councils and be flogged in the synagogues. Wow, okay, Jesus. Well, that doesn't sound like the roadmap in discipleship that we would consider to be appealing. And Jesus, in fact, continues. He says, you will be hated by everyone because of me. Well, that's even worse, Jesus. Why would anyone on earth want to journey with you? So now let's go back to the question we're thinking through today. Is there a roadmap for faith? Well, I think sometimes we're pretty concerned about having a map handed to us in order for us to put our heads down, follow the roads on that map to the T. But I wonder if instead it's helpful to think about the specific roads we'll follow to get to a certain place. I wonder what would happen if we stopped to look around us really intentionally. What if we worried more about the people we encountered on our faith journey more than the specific route that gets us from one place to the next? We have to remember, just as Jesus tells his disciples, those people that you encounter won't be your greatest cheerleaders at every turn. You're humans, they're humans, and a lot of time there is tension among relationships. Without a doubt, the journey of faith is going to create tensions along the way. But that might not always be the worst thing. Later in the book of Matthew, in chapter 17, we hear about Jesus heading up a mountain. He's with his disciples, and he's at the top of this mountain when something amazing happens. Jesus is transfigured, and 2 other pillars of faith, Elijah and Moses, they appear with Jesus. It is literally a mountaintop experience. And one of the disciples, Peter, he thinks it's pretty great up there. Why would anyone ever want to leave this mountain? He says, Jesus, I'm going to figure out some shelters. We're going to build them here, and we're just going to stay. But that is not what Jesus would have them do. Because as soon as they head back down the mountain, back into the realities of life, that is where the important work begins. The healing happens. It was messier, no doubt. It was the beginning of the road to Jesus' death, but it needed to happen in the realities of those tensions and challenges that were down the mountain. So today I invite you to think about the real topography of your own journey. What events and people have been influential in the roadmap of your life? What about the roadmap of your faith? And what has it looked like to lean into tensions rather than avoid them on your own journey? Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.